Do you feel like Turkish people speak so fast?
Yes önüne koyacaklar. Buradan en azından üç ve meşgul bir nasılıyla burada rızkını yapıyor.
Like, you know some words, you study some grammar maybe, but when someone speaks, you just struggle to understand what they're saying. Well, here's the thing. There are three specific reasons why Turkish sounds so fast to you, even when people speak at a normal speed. And no, it's not just because, oh, Turkish is a fast language. Actually, research shows that Turkish is only 10% faster than English, which is not so noticeable. No one really talks about the real reasons why it feels fast, but when you learn them, I promise it will be easier to understand Turkish. Today, I will also show you the most common shortenings and speech patterns Turkish people use when they're speaking. And you can't find these in textbooks. Merhaba, my name is Can, and I've taught Turkish to over 3,000 students over the last 6 years. The tips that I'm going to share with you today help my students understand Turkish at a natural speed as well. By the way, I also made a free PDF guide about how to understand spoken Turkish easily. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description to download it for free. There's also a bonus section in the guide that's not included in this video. Alright, let's start with the first reason why Turkish sounds so fast. And I think this is the most important one. Okay, so the first reason is rhythm. The English and Turkish languages have completely different rhythms, and your brain is trained for English rhythm. So when you hear Turkish rhythm, you think it's too fast. Here's what I mean. Listen to this sentence in English. The parents will be buying all the books. The parents will be buying all the books. Now, there are 10 syllables in this sentence, but there are only 3 beats. Did you realize that? Only 3 beats, like you say it in 3 beats. Listen again. The parents will be buying all the books. The parents will be buying all the books. So what you do is you emphasize the words parents, buying, and books. These are called the content words in English. The rest of the words are kind of rushed, right? Now I'll say the same sentence in Turkish. Listen carefully. Ebeveynler bütün kitapları alacaklar. Ebeveynler bütün kitapları alacaklar. So this Turkish sentence has almost the same number of syllables. It has 14 syllables. But it has 14 beats compared to the 3 beats of the English sentence. Look, listen again. Ebeveynler bütün kitapları alacaklar. The difference is that in the Turkish sentence, there are no strong beats. Nothing is like emphasized or stressed. Every single syllable gets almost the same time. Ebeveynler bütün kitapları alacaklar. The parents will be buying all the books. You see where I'm going with this? When you're listening to Turkish, your brain is waiting for those pauses, like those stressed syllables where you can catch up and process what you just heard. But those pauses don't come, and when you miss one piece, you lose the whole sentence in Turkish. That's why Turkish feels fast, because you're not used to the Turkish rhythm. By the way, just a quick note here, technically some syllables in Turkish words are stressed more, usually the last syllable. But it's not as strong as English stress. It's very subtle and difficult to hear. Also, the stress rules change depending on different factors in Turkish. So I'm not going to get into that here. So look, I know it's not easy, but try to get used to the Turkish rhythm and stop looking for English stress patterns when you're listening to Turkish. I wish I could give you a shortcut, but there isn't a shortcut to achieve this. It will definitely take some time, but when you get used to it, Turkish will be way easier to understand. Now let's talk about reason number 2, and this one is really annoying for beginners. So in Turkish, the verb usually comes at the end of the sentence, and this creates a huge problem for English speakers because your brain is not trained to wait that long. Here's what I mean. For example, in English, we say, the captain rescued the ship and crew in the storm. Okay? Now, the verb rescued comes right after the subject captain. So you immediately understand what happened, right? But in Turkish, the same sentence will be kaptan gemiyi ve mürettebatı fırtınada kurtardı. Okay, now, if we translate this word for word, it will be captain, the ship, and the crew in the storm saved. So you basically need to wait all the way until the end of the sentence to understand that the captain saved the ship and the crew, right? Like, you don't know if they have died, if captain did something, you understood that at the very end. So while you're trying to put, all the pieces together, the Turkish person just keeps talking, and then you just get lost. So this is why, even if you know all the words in a Turkish sentence, you can still feel confused, and it can feel like Turkish is so fast because you're waiting for that final verb to understand the whole sentence. What I recommend for this is try to focus more on the last part of the sentences in Turkish. You can miss a few words at the beginning and still maybe get the meaning from context, but if you miss the final verb, you'll be lost, and it will feel like they're speaking so fast because you're still in the first sentence. You're still trying to understand that. So that's reason number 2. Now the third reason, which honestly is the most confusing part of Turkish, and no one is talking about how important it is: the suffixes. So if you want to make a sentence in Turkish, you don't have to use multiple words like you would in English. What you do is you attach suffixes, endings, to one root word. For example, in English, if you want to say "in my bags," that's 3 separate words, right? In my bags. But in Turkish, we say "çantalarımda." Çantalarımda. It's one word, but it has one root word and 3 different suffixes. So if you don't know these suffixes, it will be very difficult to understand the meaning, even if you know the root word, which is çanta, bag. That's why I always tell my students to study Turkish suffixes as much as they study vocabulary. Learning vocabulary, in my opinion, is way easier than learning the suffixes, and you learn that by watching TV series, watching YouTube videos, but suffixes, you actually need to put an effort in learning suffixes. So without the suffixes, Turkish will always feel like a chaos when you hear it. Okay, so now you know why Turkish sounds fast, but you also need to know the common shortenings and speech patterns Turkish people use when they're speaking, because you will hear them in almost every conversation. So the first thing you need to know is a rule called Ulama in Turkish, which means linking or joining. So basically, when a word ends with a consonant in Turkish and the next word starts with a vowel, you can see what consonant and vowel is on the screen. These words connect together and they make one continuous sound. For example, çok iyi means very good. Çok ends with a consonant, iyi starts with a vowel, right? So I don't read it like çok iyi. I say çok iyi, çok iyi, çok iyi. Dün akşam, dün akşam. I say it like dün akşam, dün akşam, dün akşam. Ben istiyorum, ben istiyorum. I say it like ben istiyorum, ben istiyorum, ben istiyorum. Ağaç altı. We say it like ağaç altı, ağaç altı, ağaç altı. So try to learn the common, chunks in Turkish, like dün akşam, çok iyi. When you do that, you will start recognizing these patterns automatically over time. So the second pattern is vowel dropping. Basically what happens is some Turkish words drop their middle or end vowel when you add a suffix that starts with a vowel. This is a grammar rule, by the way. It's not only for spoken Turkish, it's also for written Turkish. So here are the most common words you need to know. And don't worry, there are not a lot of exceptions that has this rule. Just memorize these words and you'll be fine. For example, ağız means mouth. Ağız. If I want to say his mouth, I'm not going to say ağzı, ağzı. I'm going to drop the ı and I'm going to say ağzı, ağzı, because it's way easier to say. Ağzı. Another word, burun. Burun, it means nose. If I want to say his nose, I'm not saying burunu, burunu. No, I'm going to say burnu, burnu. Karın means stomach. If I say his stomach, it's karnı. See, I dropped the ı. Karnı. Omuz means shoulder. His shoulder means omzu. Omzu. I dropped the u this time. And oğul means son. I'm saying his son. Oğlu. Oğlu. I'm not saying oğlu. It's oğlu. Oğlu. So don't forget, these are the exception words. Normally, most Turkish words don't drop vowels when you add a, word that starts with a vowel. For example, bardak. I want to say to the glass, to bardak, let's say. I say bardağı, bardağı. See, I didn't drop anything. I just softened the K, which is another rule. Don't worry about that. Kilit. Kilit means lock. I want to say to the lock. I'll say kilide. kilide. Okay, now the third pattern. Now this is where it gets interesting. The third pattern is called ses düşmesi, sound dropping. When Turkish people speak, they sometimes drop some sounds to speak faster and more easily. So this happens mainly in two tenses, the present continuous and the future tense. Let me show you some examples. Let's start with the present continuous tense. I am going. How would you say that in Turkish? Gidiyorum, gidiyorum. Now sometimes people will drop re and u and just say gidiyorum, gidiyorum. So they're both common. I will say gidiyorum is more common. Saying it without dropping the sound is more common because some people think saying gidiyorum, shortening it, sounds too casual. So you should hear, a lot of examples and then understand where to use what. I use both of them. I probably use gidiyorum more often than gidiyorum. Yapıyorum, I'm doing. Yapıyorum. Sometimes you'll hear yapıyorum, yapıyorum. Again, re and u drop, and then we just say yapıyorum. Same thing as gidiyorum. Some people will use yapıyorum, some people will use yapıyorum. Yapıyorum sounds more casual. You are coming. Geliyorsun. Geliyorsun. So we drop the re and then we say geliyorsun. Geliyorsun. So the thing with present continuous tense is you drop different letters with, each different pronoun. For the you pronoun, almost everyone drops the re and say geliyorsun. Okay? Almost no one says geliyorsun because it sounds very unnatural. So you can say geliyorsun, you can drop the re all the time. Another example, yapıyorsun, but we don't say that. It means you're doing. We just say yapıyorsun. Yapıyorsun. He, she, it, o pronoun. So if you want to say he is going, you say gidiyor. You write gidiyor. But in the spoken Turkish, we just say gidiyor, gidiyor. And let's say you want to say he's doing, instead of yapıyor, yapıyor, we say yapıyor, yapıyor. So now the pronoun we, biz. Gidiyoruz sometimes becomes gidiyoruz, gidiyoruz. So most people still say gidiyoruz, by the way, but you'll hear some people say gidiyoruz. And another example, yapıyoruz, yapıyoruz, yapıyoruz. They, onlar. Gidiyorlar becomes gidiyorlar, gidiyorlar. Everyone says gidiyorlar. We always drop the re with this pronoun. Yapıyorlar becomes yapıyorlar, yapıyorlar. Now, the future tense. In the future tense, we simplify it even more. The entire middle section gets shortened. Let me show you what I mean. Let's look at the pronoun I. If I want to say I will go, in Turkish it's gideceğim, gideceğim. But no one says that. We say gideceğim, gideceğim, or gideceğim, gideceğim. It's almost like gideceğim. I will do, yapacağım. We write it as yapacağım. No one says yapacağım. We just say yapacağım, yapacağım. Or sometimes you'll hear yapacağım, yapacağım. The correct version is yapacağım. Okay? Yapacağım or gideceğim. But you'll still hear gideceğim or yapacağım. Okay, now you pronoun. You will go. Gideceksin, gideceksin. People mostly say gideceksin, gideceksin or gideceksin, gideceksin. You will do. Yapacaksın. We say yapacaksın, yapacaksın. Or yapacaksın, yapacaksın. Now he, she, it, which is o in Turkish. He will go. You write it as gidecek, gidecek. But we say gidecek, gidecek. Or again, you'll hear sometimes gidecek, gidecek. Again, correct version is gidecek. I always tell you the correct versions first. But sometimes people even shortened those versions, okay, and say gidecek. That's why I'm telling you them. Yapacak, but we say yapacak, yapacak, or yapacak, yapacak. We, which is biz in Turkish, gideceğiz. We will go. We say gideceğiz, gideceğiz, or gideceğiz. We will do. Yapacağız, we write it like that, but we say yapacağız. Yapacağız or yapacağız. They, meaning onlar in Turkish. Gidecekler, but we say gidecekler, gidecekler or gidecekler, gidecekler. Yapacaklar, yapacaklar, but we say yapacaklar, yapacaklar or yapacaklar, yapacaklar. By the way, if you want to learn Turkish with us in a more structured way so you can improve your speaking and understanding of Turkish, you can check our Turkish Master Course. It's a complete Turkish learning program that has everything you need. The link is below. We give personal feedback to everyone, so we can only take a limited number of students at a time. Spots aren't always available, but you can check the spots. If it is full, you can join the waitlist. If not, check the details, and if you feel like you can benefit from it, join the course. There are also other shortenings in Turkish, but there isn't a specific rule for them. This is just how people talk. So I'll show you the 5 most common ones. For example, we always drop the re at the end of bir. You know the number 1, bir? We just say bi most of the time. Bi. We don't say bir dakika, 1 minute. We just say bi dakika, bi dakika. Or you want to order a tea, let's say. We don't say bir çay. We say bi çay, bi çay. Then there is what are you doing, which means ne yapıyorsun. It becomes ne yapıyorsun, ne yapıyorsun. Almost no one says ne yapıyorsun. We just say ne yapıyorsun, ne yapıyorsun. And sometimes even people say ne yapıyorsun, ne yapıyorsun. But this is less common. Then there is ne oldu, which means what happened. We don't say ne oldu. We just say ne oldu, ne oldu, ne oldu. İyi akşamlar, good evening, becomes iyi akşamlar, iyi akşamlar. We drop the e and we say iyi akşamlar. And then if you want to say right in Turkish, you should say değil mi, but most people say di mi, di mi, di mi. So now you know the main patterns of fast Turkish, but you also need to train your brain to recognize these patterns at a natural speed. And there's one technique that does this better than anything else, which is shadow speaking. And it's super easy to do. I'll explain you what you should do now. First, you need to find a Turkish vlog or, some interview on YouTube. It should be something casual. Don't find something formal, okay? Then listen to it for 5 to 10 seconds. You should pause the video and repeat what you hear out loud. Then basically do this for at least 30-40 seconds. You can also check the translations. So what we're doing here is basically training your mouth to move like a native speaker. When you do this regularly, your comprehension will improve faster than any other method. So this is something called the motor theory of speech perception. So research shows that your brain learns to understand new language better when your mouth is physically involved. Your tongue and jaw movements create a feedback loop with your brain, and your brain doesn't just hear the sounds, it feels them. And that helps you process Turkish faster when you hear it. But here's the thing. I taught everything you saw today to more than 3,000 students. Some of them improved their listening really fast, but others quit after 2 weeks because they measured the progress in the wrong way. So what usually happens is, students listen to a Turkish conversation and understand maybe 10% of it, which makes them feel like whatever they're doing, whatever they have been doing, it's just not working and they just wasted their time. You might not be like this, but I know a lot of students who think exactly like this. And look, okay, yes, your Turkish is not great yet, but you're measuring the progress in a way that sets you up to fail. So think of it this way. Your brain is kind of building a map of Turkish right now, and you cannot see the progress day by day. If you study consistently for 3 months and then compare how much you can understand, the change is going to be huge. Because every single time you listen to something in Turkish actively, your brain is doing the work. It's mapping the sounds, the patterns, the rhythm of how Turkish actually flows, right? So you're not supposed to understand everything right now. That's not the goal. You're just supposed to keep feeding your brain so it can build that map. So stop expecting yourself to understand everything when you listen to a Turkish conversation. That's not going to happen. Just try to catch one thing from that sentence. Try to recognize some words, some suffixes. Try to understand the context. If you can do those things, that means you're progressing. And honestly, understanding Turkish at this point is supposed to feel hard and uncomfortable. That means, your brain is building new pathways for processing Turkish. And you're not going to eliminate that discomfort. That's not the goal. The goal is, kind of like getting okay with feeling uncomfortable all the time. I know it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. But when you do that, learning Turkish becomes more enjoyable. Now, understand understanding Turkish is one thing, but if you actually want to speak without translating in your head first, watch this video next. We show you how to stop thinking in English and start thinking in Turkish. And don't forget, you can download the free guide that I made for you with the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen. Well, I hope you liked this video and I hope to see you in the next one. Görüşürüz.